Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This video is a one-story video with a post from the subreddit Relationships. I will be giving you some additional context and a very uplifting twist of an update. So, if you want to go ahead and get started with the story, then just use the timestamps below the video. Now let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Michael Z 1975. How do I start a relationship with my nieces and nephew when their father was responsible for my brother's passing? I, 46 male, am one of 4 kids. My older brother Pete, 48 male I think, who I no longer have any contact with. My younger brother Jay, who is no longer with us, and my youngest sister Kay, 44 female. Recently, Pete's children, 2 girls and 1 boy, all in their late teens and early 20s, reached out to me and expressed a desire to have a relationship. I have zero contact with their father, and I swore that I would beat him black and blue if I ever saw him again. A little background. My oldest brother Pete was always the golden child. No matter what he did, my parents always had an excuse for why it was not his fault. Bad grade? The teacher had it out for him. Cheating on every single one of his relationships? Good thing you did it to her before she did it to you. That one was my personal favorite. He also used to torment Jay and me constantly when we were smaller than him, until in high school when I hit a growth spurt and sprung up to about 6 foot 4 inches tall and 230 pounds worth of muscle. After that, I became the typical jock type, played football, partied, and had a bunch of friends, etc. Well, my younger brother Jay didn't get as lucky and stayed pretty small and scrawny throughout high school and college, only getting up to about 5'8", and didn't have a super active social life. Despite the difference in our schooling experience, I was always very protective of Jay, especially since we were always having to put up with Pete's BS, which stopped once he realized I could pound him into the ground and not break a sweat, as he was also a lot smaller than me at only 5'10". Not much to say about Kay. She was a great young sister, and Pete didn't dare mess with her or he would incur the wrath of our mother. So, in the late 90s, Jay met his first real girlfriend, Anna, and was over the moon about her. He spent every spare moment with her, and when he wasn't with her, he would do nothing but gush about her. I had never seen him so happy. Well, one day, he comes to us, all smiles, and announces that Anna is pregnant and they are expecting. The mood quickly turned, however, when a week later it came out that Anna had been cheating on Jay for the duration of their relationship with our older brother Pete. This broke my brother, and of course Pete, being the golden crap that he is, didn't even get a disappointed glance from our parents. To this day, I have never seen someone look so broken as Jay had looked the last time I saw him. I believe his heartache was only compounded by the fact that my parents basically told him to get over it and be happy for our brother. Well, about a week after this revelation came to light, Jay took his own life. I had never been so sad and angry at the same time in my entire life. Sad that I would never see my brother again, and the pure rage of knowing that this was my brother and parents' fault. During the funeral, Pete walked in with Anna and I saw red. Thankfully, I had other family members there to stop me from doing anything stupid, but I told Pete that if I ever saw him again, I would kill him. Shortly after that, I caught contact with 90% of my family, with the exception of Kay and a cousin I had always been close with because everyone except them wanted to make excuses for my parents and Pete. Fast forward to the present. I never had any kids, and truth be told, I never wanted any. I much prefer the role of the fun uncle. Kay met a great guy and had 2 daughters, who I absolutely adore. Pete had 2 more kids with Anna before cheating on her, shocker, and splitting. And I've never met any of them. My parents have tried to make contact a handful of times, but I always told them to kick rocks. So, last week, I'm chatting with Kay's daughters, 19 and 17, and they mentioned that their cousins have wanted to meet me for a long time and were hoping I would be willing to meet with them as well. I don't believe they know everything that transpired between their dad and me, but I would be lying if I said I never had any desire to meet them. So everyone, I'm hoping to crowdsource any ideas or suggestions on how I begin or maintain a relationship with Pete's kids while also keeping him and Anna out of my life. Any suggestions are welcome. Wow, OP, I'm so sorry you have a brother like Pete. He sounds like a piece of crap. And your parents and other family members, except for Kay and that cousin, are pretty much on the same level as Pete. Of course, we can throw Anna in that bucket too. And to your question, I would just be honest and upfront. That you assume they know that you don't have a relationship with their parents and that you intend to keep it that way, but that you are open to meeting them on their own time. Regarding disclosing all the details for why you hate Pete's guts, which I totally validate, I don't know if I would say anything in the beginning unless they ask me why I have no relationship with them. I'm sure they've probably been told some weird twisted version as to why you're not in their lives, and that eventually the topic will come out on itself, and then you can set the record straight. And what do you guys think? What would you do in OP's shoes, or what kind of advice would you give him? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they told OP. Change 2001 says, since they have already reached out via other nieces, continue to use that method to set up a meeting without their parents. Be prepared that they will likely want to know why they never met you before. Answer any questions honestly. Make sure they know you want nothing to do with either of their parents. And if they try to blindside you to set up a meeting with either parent, you will immediately leave. Proceed with future meetings and relationships based on the meeting. Exchange phone numbers and emails, but reiterate it is only for them, not their parents. Dopey responds, that's a good idea. They live close to each other and maybe I could arrange that with them the next time I'm in town. I think they are aware that there is bad blood between us, so I hope they wouldn't try anything. If they do, I know my other nieces would give me a heads up. Natsumiela says, did you already ask Kay daughters if their cousins know the truth? Since it is very important for you, then maybe Kay's daughters could help you figure out as they seem to be in a good relationship with them. And OP responds, they've told me that they haven't mentioned anything to them, but said it was clear that they were at least vaguely aware. Like, they know we are estranged regarding our brother's death, but not sure if they have the details. Rebel Scientist says, I think this situation needs to be handled with care. I don't think there's any harm in meeting them, but you do need to be clear with them that you have no intention of seeing or interacting with their father. From your earlier comment, it sounds like the kids are all adults, but since they're still living with their father, it might be best to hold off on the specifics of why you won't talk to their dad until they're a bit more independent. Your brother definitely sounds like the type that would blame you for turning his kids against him, and knowing the truth could make their lives more difficult while they're still under his roof. Dopey responds, those were my thoughts as well. I'm sure one of their first questions for me is going to be why their father and I don't speak, and given their living situation, I'm not sure if it would be good for them to know that information while still under his roof. Well, I think the community gave OP some pretty solid advice as to how he should try to approach this. Now, you know that usually when there's a chance I give you guys more context from other responses from OP, and that's what I'm going to do now before moving on with the update. So let's move on with the context. As much as I hate Pete and Anna, and do still blame them for Jay's death, I'd like to think I have more class than to crap talk Pete to his kids. My decision to split from the rest of my family outside of Pete and my parents was also a very pragmatic one. As I started to make money, I kept getting more and more requests for handouts and favors, which was already weighing on my last nerve. After Jay's death, it just kind of hit a boiling point and I burned every bridge on the way out. I've had minimal contact with some of them over the years. Regarding my sister Kay, considering she was just as crushed about Jay's death as I was and was angry for a long time, she and her then boyfriend, future husband, hit a financial rough patch after graduating college and were forced to move in with our parents. Due to unrelated drama at the time, they couldn't stay with me, so my sister stayed with them for several years, and over that time their relationship improved, and even though I wasn't thrilled at the time, I understood. She still doesn't really have a relationship with Pete, but is cordial if they meet. I don't blame her because our parents did a lot for her, and her daughters love their cousins, so I didn't want to put her in that kind of position of choosing. Pete's kids haven't reached out to me personally yet. I was only told about their desire to meet me through Kay's daughters. That's why I think the reason they may be interested in meeting is that they have a close relationship with Kay's kids and I'm a big part of their lives. So maybe they just want to get to know me. At least, that's what I hope it is. If this were 5 years ago, this would be a different story. But according to Kay, all the kids are in college and are only back with Pete due to COVID. I've been thinking that I should hold off on meeting them until they all return back to college and their dorms or previous living arrangements. But by then, they'll be all over the country. Now is the only time I would get to meet them all at once. But now that I type it out, maybe meeting them one at a time would be a better option. Okay, well, now we know everything that OP has given the community and we also know where OP's mind is. So it's time that we move on with the update. Hello everyone, I'll start off by thanking the community for all their comments and replies. It gave me a lot to think about and helped me formulate a plan on how I was going to approach this. I had several people tell me I should not meet up and just let sleeping dogs lie, but the what if of it all would eat me alive if I didn't see them. A concern I saw a lot in my original post was that they were trying to get back in contact for my money, which was also a concern of mine. But I don't spoil my sister's children at all. I'm currently helping her oldest with financial aid and will be assisting the youngest as well, but no money is coming out of my pocket. I'm simply teaching them responsible money management, along with putting them in contact with financial advisors, and they are extremely grateful. So I hope they will not expect some kind of college loan that they are not going to get. Finally, I had several people ask if I ever went to therapy for this. I did go see a therapist pretty regularly for about 6 years after I made the initial break from my family, and it did help significantly. She did counsel reconciliation for a very long time, but I told her that it was not up for discussion. She also helped me see who else in my life were being big problems and helped me make a semi-clean break from them as well. One of the not so clean breaks was the reason I was unable to take Kay in after she hit financial troubles and had to move back in with our parents. Anyway, on to the update. I decided to hold off on meeting them as a group, especially since they were still living with their dad at the time, and just do one-on-one meetings. I also didn't want to be bombarded with questions or propositions for money if their intentions weren't good. So, the first one to go back to her college town, which was shortly after my first post, was the oldest of Pete's kids, who I'll call Kathy, 21 female. She went back to find a place to stay and get a part-time job in her college town so that she was ready for classes to start in the fall. I got her personal email from Kay's kids because I don't really have any social media and decided to reach out to her. She was pretty excited to hear from me and I flew to her city and we set up a time to meet on one of her days off. I got to the restaurant early so that I could have a few drinks and calm my nerves. I decided to reserve the most private table they had so that we could say anything we wanted without people listening in and or staring. Well, the moment she walked through the door, I immediately knew who she was. She was the spitting image of my mother, her grandmother, when she was that age. She even had the green eyes that Jay and I inherited from our mother. Pete was always jealous he never inherited them, because we were always getting compliments from strangers when we were little about our eyes, and you could tell it would burn Pete a new butthole because people weren't paying attention to him. So I kept it together and we said our greetings. After the typical small talk about school, life, and work, we place our orders. Then she finally says, "I guess you're wondering why I wanted to meet you." She proceeds to tell me that last year she decided to buy an Ancestry DNA kit for her and her sister as something fun to do during the lockdown. And as many of you guessed, the kit came back as them being half sisters. Kathy is Jay's daughter. She goes on to tell me that growing up, Pete had always treated his other kids better than her, and with the DNA results, it all finally made sense why and the reason they don't have the best relationship. Clearly, Pete is still just a big piece of crap as he always was. Nice to know some things never change. I'm sure he harbored some kind of resentment with the chance of her being Jay's daughter. After going to her mom with the results, Anna surprisingly admitted to everything that happened. I guess after she found out that her daughter was Jay's child, the situation and him ending his life hit her like a ton of bricks, and she has harbored a great deal of guilt regarding it ever since. Anna went on to tell her all about the circumstances of her conception, Jay's death, my estrangement, the reason for their rocky relationship, etc. According to her, Pete wanted to give her up for adoption after she was born, but my parents, who I guess finally grew a spine, told him no, and that they would financially cut him off if he did. So once lockdown restrictions finally started to lift in California, she thought reaching out to me would be the best way to get to know what her bio father was like. Apparently, it was only her that really had the urge to meet me, as I was closest to Jay during his life, and that was when she let Kay's daughters know that she wanted to meet me and ask them to contact me on her behalf. She knew we were close, and that would be the best way to get in touch. After this, I couldn't hold back anymore, and the waterworks began flowing. I couldn't help but apologize to Kathy for all the things she had to go through with Pete. If I had known, I would have adopted Kathy in a heartbeat. We spent the rest of the meal just talking about Jay, remembering old stories about him that I thought I had forgotten. She is a great girl and smart as a whip, telling me how she intends to pursue her master's in computer science. She has scholarships and grants to cover all her schooling, which put my mind at ease that I probably wasn't being taken for the long con. We ended the night by exchanging contact information and a big hug. Feels like I got a little piece of Jay back. Now, knowing that it was only Kathy who really wished to meet, I asked her if she would reach out to her siblings on my behalf and see if they wanted to meet as well. Other than that, I'm currently happy with how this meeting turned out and feel like I have a lot of catching up to do with Kathy in the future. Thankfully, she completely understood and respected my desire to still stay no contact with Pete and her mother. Wow, OP, I didn't see that one coming, so if other people in the community did, good for them. Wow. Considering all of the sad stuff that happened in the past that can't be changed, now knowing that your brother Jay did have a kid and that you get to have a relationship with her is great news. I'm happy that your meeting with her went well. I'm happy that you have a piece of your brother back. That is all fantastic. So all I'm gonna say now, OP, is I wish you both the best in the upcoming future, and that if you do meet her siblings, it is just a good meeting. All the best, OP, and take care. And now, we move on to the next post. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing, and it is fantastic. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.